Hello friends, and welcome back to Susie on the Farm. In today's video, we're taking all these spindle scraps and all of these glass globes that I've been collecting for the past year, and we are turning them into Christmas magic. We are making Christmas bells out of these, and these turned out absolutely stunning. I can't wait to show you how we created them, so let's go ahead and get started. To begin with, I have to thank my sweet mama because she actually cut down all these spindles for me, drilled the holes in them, and added these little hooks. Now I am taking different materials. I'm using twine, baker's twine, some ribbon, and I actually had to take apart a bracelet to get all of these little beads. So they're like a metal bead and they're kind of hard. I really want my bells to actually make a good clanking noise. Couple of tips on this: use longer threads than you think you need, or longer ribbon, whatever, because it's quite hard to tie it down when you're using it too short. And also hot glue your little bell clanger to your knot, and that will hold it in place. All my bells now have a clanger. They all sound good, and now I am going to use some top bond glue just to glue all these tops on. I'm just going to hold the camera and do one here. It's pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to leave these to dry overnight. This is a brand new bottle. Maybe I didn't cut the hole big enough. There we go. It will dry clear too. So I'm going to get those all glued up and we'll pick back up in the morning. So all my bells are dry. They all sound good. We're going to use a bunch of different techniques on these. I'm mass making quite a few and I want to try some different things out. To begin with, I'm using the jingle mold, and I am using doing a couple of them with the deer head on there. I also made up some of the bows, but I don't think I got that on film. I used some cornstarch to dust my mold, and then I am using some IOD air dry clay to make these little molds, and it's real simple. I've got this in real time so you can see how long it takes to actually make one of these molds from beginning to end. This one you have to be pretty careful with his antlers as well, but I had no trouble with either of these. I just clean off all of the excess, and then I will turn the mold over and bend it to release the mold. And I'm using my finger just a little bit to help with his antlers. Now I'm going to use Titebond Quick and Thick. That's my go-to glue for everything. It holds no matter what. I spread some onto the back of the mold, and I'm being very gentle because I do not want to mess up any of those details on the front or his antlers, but I do need to get glue on the antlers as well. And then I'm just very carefully pressing down all over. That glue will dry clear, plus we're going to paint over it. That is no big deal. I glued both of these on, and then I also made some of the Christmas taper molds, and I put those on the longer spindle ones, again being super careful not to mess up any of these details, but also making sure that the mold is making contact everywhere and nothing is sticking up. I also made some of the angelic tapers mold, and I can see here in this video that I was very careful to try to place my angel in the middle of that star, but you will see in the end that this one did slide or move or something, and it just absolutely looks horrible. But we will get to that later. The other one is fine, but I'm doing the same thing there, just pressing all the ends down, and now I'm going to start painting what's left. I'm using a few different colors today. This is Fusion Mineral Paint in the color Lichen. I do think a darker green would have been better, but this was on my desk, something like bayberry or manor green, or maybe DIY Monet's Garden would have been absolutely beautiful. But either way, I am getting all of these painted up. I did a few in Marquee. This is a DIY clay-based paint, and it is the best to use for distressing. And I definitely want to distress these little, I guess that's kind of a hobnail globe. These definitely turned out to be my favorite of the globes, but I collected these all year long, so I have quite a few. I also use Fusion Chateau. This is one of my favorite off-whites, and I love a technique with this one. All of the paint and products that I use are available on my website, susieonthefarm.com, except the jingle mold is retired and sold out. However, I do offer resin castings of that. That would not work for this project very well. Well, it actually might, because it'll come to you already hardened. I'm using Little Black Dress, which is a DIY clay-based paint for these. And for the taper ones, I'm using metallic. So I took them outside and gave them a spray coat first, just to give a good base. And also, I will not have to do as many coats of this Golden Ticket liquid patina. So I did the Golden Ticket on the Santa Claus and the Snowman. And for the angels, I used Fusion in the bronze metallic. I love this paint. It goes on so smooth and is just such a classic look. Okay, so all of my bells are now painted and dry or still drying, but we're going to get started with the next steps, and we're going to do a few different things, and we're going to start with these red ones. Okay, so I know that I want to distress these because the hobnail and all the details on that. So I'm going to go ahead and just distress these, and I'm going to use the wet distress method. This is DIY paint, so I'm just using a baby wipe to do a little wet distressing. I often wonder, and maybe you do too, when we're painting, we're so careful to do so good, and we put 2 or 3 coats on, and then we wipe a lot of it back. Like, do we really need to be that careful since we're just going to distress it anyway? I don't know, but I do that. Leave me a comment below. Let me know if you do that as well. Once I get all these distressed, I'm simply going to decorate them up a little bit, and you're about to start seeing some of the amazing reveals. Forgot to press record when I just dry brushed all of these that had the green paint. I'm using Chateau, so I'm just going back over them, adding a little bit more dry brush so you guys can see how that picks up all that detail. I did tie these up with some twine, and I added a few little tags that I had made with some transfers. Looking at these pictures, I think I will go back and do a red velvet ribbon on these just to give it another pop of color. For these that are painted with that Chateau, they're going to get some dark wax because that's my most favorite thing to do with this color. It was a little darker than I usually do because I think I usually use the aging wax, and I used a baby wipe to wipe some of that back to get it to just where I wanted it. I absolutely adore this technique because it gives it just the perfect aged look. I did also tie some of those cute little tags that I painted and added some transfers onto using the Partridge Lane transfer book. think I'm going to do some rub and buff. It's a little antique gold rub and buff, and I'm going to go ahead and paint the bow and dry brush the deer. Or maybe I'll paint the whole deer. Or maybe I'll just dry brush on both. Maybe I'll just use my finger too. Oh yeah, that looks good. Go heavy on that. So as you can see, I just used my finger to dry brush that rub and buff all over these, which perfectly highlights all of those details in the globes and in my deer. And then I did seal these up with some DIY Big Top, because I did want a little bit of a shine with these. And look how gorgeous these came out. These are a favorite as well. For a couple that had a longer, plainer, somewhat handle on them and a flat enough surface, I was able to put some transfers on there. This pretty little wreath came from the Partridge Lane transfer book. And as you can see, I am doing one side and then moving to the other. And I did have to lay it back down. I just didn't want any cuts or wrinkles in this, and I knew that when you're doing on a rounded surface like that, sometimes you actually will lose a little bit of space. So I just laid it back down on there, and then I'm burnishing it down with my fingers. On this one, I'm using a couple of bells. Really, I think this came from Christmas Joy, and I actually had to cut some off. I don't want it to go down onto the globe area. So I just cut some of the transfer off so it would fit perfectly onto the handle. And again, starting on one side and making my way over, so not to have any cuts or wrinkles in this, because your transfers are tacky immediately. So if you lay it all down, it's going to stay in that spot. But remember, you're actually kind of losing some space in there, so you don't want it to overlap or wrinkle. So I burnished these in with my finger. I sealed the transfers up, tied some pretty little ribbon on these, and these are complete. For the angelic taper ones that I did the bronze paint on, I'm going to use some rub and buff. If y'all can hear this kitten purring on my lap, I'm sorry, but I can't make him move. He's just being so sweet. So I'm using some ebony rub and buff. I want to make these really aged and like just some aged metal. So once I get the black on there, I feel like it kind of took away from the details of the angels. So I also took a little bit of that antique gold and went over it as well. This is the one that moved on me, so it's crooked and doesn't look complete. If y'all have any ideas for how I can fix this one, let me know. But other than that, these are so beautiful. The details in these molds is amazing, and I love their little faces. ones that have the golden ticket on. Absolutely love doing dark wax over these too, and you will see why here when I wipe back on this Santa's face. Look at that. Doesn't that look just amazing? So that's all I did to complete these, was put some dark wax all over them and wipe that excess back. I hope that y'all have enjoyed all the techniques that we did on these bells today. Please let me know in the comment which technique was your favorite, which one would you like to try, and thank y'all so much for watching. I appreciate it so much. Don't forget, if you need any products to create your own, you can find them on SusieOnTheFarm.com. I will see y'all tomorrow night over on Whatnot.